Welcome back to the Refined Strength podcast. I am here with my lovely friend, Annie Baker. Those of you may know her as Annie Baker on Instagram. She is a bikini turned fit model turned back to bikini competitor in the NPC, soon to be IFBB. And I met you just like through Instagram this year, and you're such a great light of a person, and it's been interesting following your journey this year in terms of, you know, being a great bikini competitor and then deciding to go into fit model, the new division this year. And I haven't talked a lot about fit model on my podcast yet, so I felt like seeing you do that and then go back to bikini so quickly just made me want to talk about it and hear more about like your side of things as the actual competitor. So tell us about yourself and just we'll go from there.
Yeah, okay. Who I am. That was a good introduction, by the way, Rachel. So currently I am an amateur athlete, so I do compete in the NPC. As far as my life goes, I just graduated college with my bachelor's in psych and law. I work as a personal trainer and a bartender. I work. And so that's kind of like what I do outside of bodybuilding. And then as far as competing goes, I did my first show in 2019. Didn't do a building season, just did a prep. So I kind of like when people ask me how long I've been bodybuilding, I'm like really since 2023. But I did a show in 2019. That time I had a pretty severe eating disorder. COVID happened. I was actually planning on doing another show, and then COVID was the saving grace that really changed my life. I decided, okay, I really love this bodybuilding thing, but I have something that is interfering in a way that I'll never be successful until I take the time and deal with it. And so I put bodybuilding on hold, and I truly recovered from my eating disorder 2020 to 2023. So I wanted to make sure when I did that show, I realized that I had found something that was worth getting better for. I loved it. And I saw that there was something that was, I mean, I'd had this bulimia for 10 years, and we can go into that a little bit later, but just a little bit of background on my competing. So when I finally decided to come back, this was 2023, and I'd been healed. I had a good relationship with my food and my body, and I couldn't stop thinking about the stage, and I couldn't stop thinking about like how much I wanted to come back. So this will kind of explain why it means so much to me and why I love bikini so much, and it sort of play into like my whole decision with fit models. So bodybuilding was really like that life preserver that I found something that I loved so much that I was willing to do whatever it took to get better, to heal my like health, get my period back, fix my relationship with food, with myself, my self-image, my body dysmorphia, everything. I worked through all that, and I took a whole year to build, and then I decided to do 2 bikini shows. So last year I did Republic of Texas and I did NPC Texas Classic. And this was with my coach prior to Jamie, but she was also on Fit Body Fusion. And I placed first in both my classes. So that was a really good feeling. That was the first time I'd won anything. And that was the first time, I'd ever done anything athletic because I didn't play sports growing up. So got feedback. They said, you'll be competitive, but you need to grow. So I said I wasn't impatient. I was like, I've already waited this long to be able to do it. So I'll take an off season. I decided that I wanted to be serious about it. I said, I want to go to the Olympia, and that sounds crazy to say, everybody says that, right? But I think that you need a dream that's big enough and scary enough to direct your, I guess, attentions and efforts. Like if the goal isn't big enough, and it depends on, it could be different for different people, but for me, that was in my mind worth it, right? Like that is something that I would like to achieve in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I hired Jamie, and it's a big sacrifice. She's a very expensive coach, and I was thinking, well, if you want to be an Olympian, you get an Olympian coach, and people might say, well, that's too expensive. But if that saves you 5 years of misguided coaching, then you actually just saved a lot of time and money. So I started working with her, and I had a really short off season. It was about 12 weeks because started working with her, and she was like, you're just not growing. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, you don't know, like, the kind of level of commitment that I have. Like, I'm very tall. I'm 7, and I was in school. I was doing summer school. I was, working. I was training. I didn't realize how many other things were taking away from, my building season. So when the fit model division came out, she called me. She was like, "Hey, do you have time to talk on the phone?" And she doesn't really call. I was like, "Okay, yeah, well, what's up?" And she was like, "I really see this for you. Like you have everything that I feel like they're describing right now, like you are really good on stage." And like she said all these glowing things to me that I had never heard her say relative to bikinis. When Jamie doesn't give compliments, like she does not. And we've had a lot of friction, like because like the ego wants to hear like you're so good and this and that. And it's not that she wasn't encouraging, but like she would always be like, "We'll see. We'll see." Like she didn't ever seem like excited about me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, I understand." Like I purposely put myself in the position of being a nobody, right? Like her roster, she's a kingmaker. She's making an Olympian every single weekend. I'm happy to just get what I can out of it. But when she was telling me, like, "You're going to go be a pro," and like, I see the Olympia for you, and like those words coming out of her mouth is it felt really good, and it was very tempting. Like I wasn't drawn to the description of Fit Model when it came out because I love muscle. I love conditioning. I like figure girls. Like I just like heart eyes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm such a fan of the division, even though growing into bikini has been a struggle for me. But so she said, like, let's do Fit Model. And I saw the opportunity for what it was. There's not going to be a lot of pros the first year. Everybody who decides to do this division is going to have their pick. If they have the right temperament, the right personality, they're going to have their pick when it comes to sponsorships. They're going to have their pick when it comes to opportunities. They're going to need to, suit companies are going to need to sponsor a fit model. Supplement companies are going to need a fit model. And so when it's not thousands of girls, but it's like hundreds, you're in an industry with a lot of turnover and a lot of competitors, it's really hard to stand out unless you're well connected. And fit model is kind of one of those rare opportunities where there's a spotlight on you. And I know that, like, and so I was like, well, like, let's just give it a shot. And so she was like, "I want to get you on stage as soon as possible, to capitalize on this. Like, we'll get feedback and, keep going." And so I did. I was like, all right. So I started prep New Year's Eve. And I also, like, my word for the year that I picked was curiosity. Like, okay, stay open-minded. Like, I really try not to get my identity like so attached to like the things that I do. And, you know, the best things in life that have ever happened to me have not been things that I've planned. So, it's like, okay, let's do this. And yeah, so we did San Diego in March, and I won my class. And I cried when I got off stage at prejudging. And I could not stop crying. And I was like, why am I could not understand why I was so, because I was like, I know I can go back at any time. Like, this is just fun. And, Jamie was like, take it casually. Like, this is just fun. Like, this is just a sport. And I was so upset. And I think that reflecting back now, I realize like how much heart and intention I had put into my growing season to grow for Bikini, to deliver the feedback that they had asked for, and then to step on stage and fit model. I just felt like, we pulled my upper body training as soon as I started, deciding I wanted to go that route. And so, not training upper body, like not doing any of the things that I loved. I realized that the calculation I was running in my own head was, it better be worth it, because I don't love the process, so I have to win. Because if you don't win, but you love the process, then it's worth it to you because you're getting some kind of like intrinsic reward from like loving what you do or growing into the kind of person that you want to be. And for me, I was like, if I don't win the Olympia in fit model, like, to me, I had to pick a goal that was so out there, extrinsically rewarding. I could see all the benefits for what they were, but for me personally, I didn't feel fulfilled. So, it was a hard show for us. Like, even though I won and I was like, wow, I've gotten 2 first places, and they feel so completely different for me. And I had a really bad attitude, I'll be honest. I just like, I couldn't help myself. Like I was like horrified because that was our first show together. And I was like, this isn't how I show up for other people. Like this isn't the kind of athlete that I am. And so after the show, I sent Jamie some flowers and I was like, hey, like, let's try this again. I want to do another fit model show because I don't think that I gave you my best. And so we did. And I poured everything into that prep. Everything that I was like possibly could be upsetting me about it. I was like, maybe I just don't like this because it's hard for me in a different way. Because I've always struggled with like the presentation aspect of it. That's always been like my little like thing. I put posing off for the last, because I like the training and I like the dieting, but so I was like, maybe this is a chance for me to grow and, work on my presentation. So I stretched every day for 45 minutes. I nailed that fit model front pose. Like I did all the little things to make sure that I was, my best on stage. And I loved the package that we put at Wasatch, and in my mind, I was like, okay, overall for sure. Like I've never thought that before. Like, oh yeah, you're going to win, but you have a precedent based on like how you've done in the past. And that was my worst placing ever. I got fourth in open. So it's kind of like, it's weird. It let me observe like, okay, you can feel your best and place your worst. And, that again brought me to like, is it worth it to you? That really revealed like I'm only doing this for the outcomes. After that, Jamie called me and she was like, hey, like I think that you're just cut out for bikini, and how about we just do that? And I was just waiting for her to say that to me because I was like, I am not going to be that person that says, or she was like, let's do junior USAs. And I was like, for bikini? Like, oh my gosh, like my heart, like, cause I wasn't going to ask to go to a national. She said I was ready, so that was my experience with Fit Model. But I've also enjoyed the contrast because my best friend just won the overall in Fit Model at Chattanooga. And she loves everything about it that I don't, and so
Yeah.
and so she's suited to it. And so it's just been fun to be able to like appreciate, I guess finding where you fit in and your why for like why you choose the division that you do. And there's more to it than just winning or losing. But yeah, that's a long response, but there's a lot
No,
there.
it's good. It's good to know that background, especially just how long you worked to get to a point where you were really loving the process of building and getting stronger, because anyone with that disordered eating or eating disorder history, like it's really hard to get there. Get to a point where you actually want to grow and build and get bigger and take up more space, and then to decide or have help deciding that you're actually going to try to be smaller, like not train your upper body as much and not
I
get,
got yeah.
yeah, do the things that you've just turned so many corners to be able to even enjoy, and then have to back off of that. That's a difficult thing. And I think a lot of people might not really think about it from that perspective, but I see that happen a lot with competitors who will choose the division based on what someone else tells them versus what they really want to do. I had a conversation about this with a friend who I think she had been working towards women's physique for a while, and then she's working towards figure now, and she's just so much happier because she doesn't feel like she's being pushed into a direction. She got to choose. And there's certain things like structure wise that people are just really built for one division, right? Or really not built for a division. Like some people are just not built for wellness, so they shouldn't even try. But then there's other people that can go, between divisions, especially between bikini and fit model. And there's one side of the coin where people will say like, oh, this person is perfect for fit model, this person is perfect for bikini. But a lot of the times, like especially between bikini and fit model, they're so similar. There's just a slight difference in like actual muscle size and then actual conditioning. And so when you decide one way or the other, it has to be about the process, not the outcome. Because the outcome, that's pretty easy, honestly, to change. If you're a bikini competitor, you switch to fit model, you don't diet as hard, and you don't train as hard or as much for certain areas, but the physique and the structure are pretty similar.
And it all comes down, I think, to having like an alignment between like what you're hoping to get out of it
Mm-hmm.
and like your realistic expectations. Because, like you say, there's people who shouldn't do this, or shouldn't do wellness. And it's like, they need to, we need to try to align ourselves with reality as much as possible. Like,
Yeah.
if you love a certain division, you're going, and you're not built for it, then you're going to have to accept that you have to do it for another reason
Yeah.
beyond placing.
Agreed.
And it's like, if you can and you can psychologically handle not winning, then maybe you can still try to do that. But there's the heart that it takes to get on a treadmill when you're tired or to get up and practice your posing. It's like, yes, there's a discipline element to it, but if you aren't having that feeling of like envisioning the end goal and how you want to feel, if you aren't driven by that, then you'll never be excellent. Like, it's really hard. Like, if you're not inspired by the division that you choose, I'm not saying that fit model is not inspiring, but for me,
It's not inspiring for how you see yourself. It might be
mhm,
inspiring for how you see your best friend or other women who
yes.
are doing well in it and enjoying it. But if it's
Mhm.
not inspiring for you, then it's not inspiring for you, and that's okay.
Yes, 100%. So, and it's cool to see like the difference of like what appeals about it to people,
Mm-hmm.
because for my friend Lauren, it's very much the pageantry. She practiced her posing so much. I mean, she'd be like, my back hurts, I don't think it looks like it comes so easy, right? But she worked really hard for it. And I don't have the drive for that. Like, oh, I can't, like, I will practice my posing because I have to, because I love bikini. But for fit model, the desire wasn't strong enough, to make me want to do that. So yeah, I think it really just comes down to, it's not about, when people say do things for the right reasons, I'm like, bodybuilding, it's not about morality. It's not, when you say like, oh, you're doing it for the wrong or the right reasons, that can be kind of like a deceptive way to label it. It's like, you have to have integrity in your why, and again, it has to match reality. Like, you have to know, like, if you want to do what, if I wanted to do wellness, I would have to know that I would never win. And that's just, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, obviously getting something out of it, right? But not, so,
Well,
and
the
we like
same
to win.
thing goes for if someone say like they want to start a prep, even though their coach tells them they're not ready, or they want to do
Yes.
the show that they originally planned for, but your coach says, "Hey, we're not ready. We're not going to be ready for that in 4 weeks. We need more time." But you go and say like, "No, I'm going to do it anyway. I have to because of XYZ reason." Then you automatically have to shift your mindset and know that, well, my coach who does this for a living knows that I'm not going to be ready. So then you have to reset your expectations and realize you're probably not going to do that great. Just because you want to do it, that doesn't matter to anybody else but you. What
Mhm.
matters to the judges is how you look. And so your expectation has to be at least a little bit rooted in reality. I think it's important to be a little delusional about your goals and be just like, the sky's the limit for what you can
Mhm.
achieve, but there's certain things when you get down to the details and like the week by week part of it that you have to accept, and you can't be delusional and think you're going to lose 20 pounds in 4 weeks. Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And it is hard to, I think, the psychological aspect of it, knowing like what kind of mindset to adopt or what mindset serves you best. Because there's
Mhm.
some people who, like Muhammad Ali, like, I'm the best there ever was. Some people that really serves that sort of, delusion about
Mhm.
their greatness, because if you think that your shit don't stink and you're the best God's gift to mankind, you're going to show up in a way that kind of reflects that, and maybe you'll be better, but then that might also set you up for incredible disappointment, and it might create friction in your relationship. So like, knowing how to, and this is something that I've sort of been working through too, is like, what's the right mentality to adopt, say, when you go on stage? Do you
Mhm.
come just saying like, I'm just here to have fun? Do you come in like, I'm going to kill everybody. And I think that you only figure that out sort of by finding, again, what serves you, you
Yeah.
know?
How you choose your mindset for something, how humble or how, hyped up about yourself you're going to be, you have to be then ready for whatever that makes you do and how that makes you act.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
like if you, take the route of like, I'm the fucking best, I'm going to get my pro card, I'm going to win the overall, I'm going to do all of this and kill everything, then you have to back that up with work, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to back
Yeah.
that up with the type of work that the best of the best does. But
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will have that level of confidence, but it's not founded on anything. It's founded on like, well, they've probably gotten lucky a few times. They've probably, worked hard, but not quite as hard as they could, or they let the fact that either their own hype about themselves or social media hype about them. I've seen that,
Don't believe your own press releases.
exactly. I've seen that kind of like take down the level of work that someone
Mm-hmm.
does. And so they kind of rest on their laurels. And then, yeah, they end up disappointed when they don't measure up because they identified with that mindset that they had of being the best. But if you're not the best, you're not going to be the best in someone else's eyes. You're only the best in
And
your eyes.
words, yeah, words don't substitute for actions.
Yeah.
Like intensity doesn't substitute for consistency.
Yeah.
They're both, or mindset, words, whatever you want to say, they're both integral parts of success. And they both need to like be appropriately calibrated to, again, like what serves you and what your goals are. But like you have to have the mindset, but just believing it isn't enough, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, the
So
same
yeah,
thing
it's an
goes
interesting thought.
on the other side of it of I've watched I used to have this myself in my previous pro seasons in like 2019 and 2021 where I did my worst. That's when I tried to be the most humble and like hide my excitement and hide the fact that I was not hiding the fact that I was prepping for pro shows, but like I didn't like to talk about it a lot. I didn't like I kind of felt embarrassed sometimes that I was telling people that I'm a figure pro because I didn't feel like one. I didn't feel like I looked like one. And I kind of had that like, oh, yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a level of toxicity that too much humility can bring you if you have too much humility. And if you're trying to do that in a way to downplay what you think you can do because you're worried about what other people think about what you think you can do. Have you seen that in others?
Yes. So I do think that it's obviously not obviously. I do think it's a protective mechanism. So
Definitely.
you're setting the expectation early that if you fail, it's okay,
Yeah.
because you've already given yourself a caveat or like a little
Right.
disclaimer, like, well, it's not that you're like, it's not, I don't think true humility is self-deprecating. True humility is, again, I keep coming back to just saying aligned with reality. It's an accurate description of how things are. So if you're good, it's okay to acknowledge that, and we don't need to fear that.
So you were just starting to talk about how that toxic humility, when especially with
Mhm.
competing, is kind of a protection mechanism
Yes.
for like if I protect myself by saying like, well, I'm just doing my best, like I probably won't get there or whatever, like I might not, it's okay, I'm just doing this for fun, whatever it is that someone says, like it almost makes it okay in your mind that if you lose, you're going to be okay. But I think it
Mhm.
actually makes people work with less quality, and that like them telling themselves that thing over and over again that's more on the negative side, it actually makes them worse or brings down their level of self accountability and their level of quality, I think.
Yes, I think it all flows from identity too.
Mm-hmm.
So it is important to, I think, speak authentically, and it's hard to, if you don't see yourself as a winner yet, it's hard to like speak that into existence. But I do think you need to try to work towards that because we do that in life with pretty much everything, whether it comes to admitting the kind of relationship we truly want because we think it doesn't exist. We, continuously, everybody wants like the dream life, right? But so few people will act because they don't believe it can happen for them. in every area. Again, generalizing, this is just a human tendency that we do a lot. Self sabotage by creating what we think is a more achievable outcome, that we say that we just want this, because we're like, that's more likely to happen for me than like the thing I truly want. And then what you run the risk of is like nobody really ever ended up where they want to be by accident. And so now you don't even have something to shoot for that's inspiring. Um,
You're keeping the bar low
yes.
because
Yeah.
the
What you
lower
think
the
is achievable.
bar, or if the bar is in a medium place, then that's a little safer, and it's not going to, you think it's not going to hurt as much if you don't meet it, or if you don't meet the actual goal that you have in the back of your mind that you won't tell anybody about.
Or even yourself.
Yeah.
So often we don't admit the things that we truly want or even know what we really want because we're just so afraid of success or of not having it, and it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. But our brains aren't designed to make us happy, they're designed to keep us safe. So you constantly have to work to just check in with yourself. I always tell people, like, ask yourself questions, and it's like,
Mhm.
why would I ask myself a question? Because I know the answer to it, so why would I ask myself a question? And I'm like, you'll be surprised what what the answer is.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
think that you know.
I ask people that a lot, clients, just like, I ask them questions like, I don't need you to answer this for me. You can if you want, but I really want you to answer it for yourself, because I think that you will be surprised by your answer, and you're answering yourself and your own questions is a level of accountability that you're just not used to having because you don't ask questions of yourself. So your coach can tell you what to do, you can follow a plan, but especially if you have trouble following a plan or trouble staying on plan, and, you feel like you're always falling off, or it's just really hard. I've had people tell me, I just don't know if this is really what I want to do. And so I feel just like kind of conflicted on what I'm really meant to do. And that's where I ask them to ask questions, because if you don't know if this is what you want to do, that's okay. You don't have to do it. Nobody's forcing you to do it. Bodybuilding is a luxury hobby. It's something that we are privileged to be able to do in every way. So don't do it if you don't want to do it. But your questioning of your ability to do it comes from a sense of, yeah, trying to keep yourself safe, because you don't know if working as hard as you need to work to make it happen is going to be is going to make you successful. But again, going back to that output versus input thing, if you're only focused on success being the output and actually making it there and getting to the stage, winning the show, getting the pro card, then you miss out a lot. You miss out on all of the beautiful things that you can discover about yourself, about life, about the sport, about other people, if you're not looking at the process and enjoying being present within the process.
Yes. And two, like I tell people, you can't hold on to that moment. No matter how amazing it is, it just slips through your fingers. Like, you can win, and as much as you can be like, okay, let's freeze time here, like I've done it, I've won, then time passes and then the next thing happens. And so you are really robbing yourself of the person you could have become, or the enjoyment, or the daily, satisfaction that you could have gotten from the climb. I know that
Yeah.
sounds cheesy, but it's really, really true. It's like, there's no such thing as, so many people fixate on what they think. And this is back to my eating disorder. I had this idea that if I was just skinny, then I would be happy because people would like me and I'd be beautiful. And there's this moment in time snapshot fixation that you have of something that you think is the key to life. And a lot of the times our brains like to simplify it and make it just one thing instead of an aggregate of all the multiple factors in
Mhm.
our lives. So we'll hyperfixate on one, what seems like pivotal moment or success or achievement, whether it's winning a pro card or going to the Olympia or whatever it is. We put it, almost becomes a placeholder for like all our hopes and dreams and happiness in life, because it's simple for our brain. We can just sort of focus on
I
that and
work
think like
towards this, I'll
that
get
is
there,
the
I'll make
answer.
it. Yeah.
And it also explains, because I don't have that thing, then it's the reason why I'm not happy in like all these other areas,
Makes you
instead of
feel
finding,
better about not being there yet.
yes, it's the answer, and life really doesn't have that, but that's how our brains kind of just like to work, and I find myself doing that too. It's like, oh, it's the missing piece, right?
Mhm.
And then you get there, or you have that thing, or you achieve that thing, and you realize it's not. And then what? So just like learning to, again, find satisfaction in doing all those little things that will get you to whatever it is. Because it is important to have goals. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals, but you shouldn't believe that they are a solution,
Yeah.
you know?
Just like bodybuilding, the reason why there's that big dopamine crash after you win, even if it was like you won your overall, you won your pro show, you won something, there's always going to be that crash because you worked so hard for this one moment. And no matter how strong your mindset is, you will come down from that and you'll have to be faced with reality and the next step. And so that's why, like, a big thing that I've told athletes this year, I've had a lot of wins and a lot of like second places or like not, worse. And you have to always remember as a competitor that most people lose. And even if you did win with the exact same physique that you had when you got second or third or fourth, you'll still have to do the same things to improve. So if you win, there's another milestone automatically like next up. And like especially if you got your pro card, good for you, you got your pro card. Doesn't really mean much other than now you can compete in pro shows. The pressure is higher, the stakes are higher, the people are a lot more competitive, and you're back down to the bottom of the totem pole again. At least
Yes,
while
and
you're an
it is a big
amateur,
achievement. It is a big
for
achievement.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, people like to say, oh, pros especially, they're on the other side, but they're like, it's not, all that it's cracked up to be, in the same way that your Gucci bag in your closet doesn't continually give you dopamine,
Yeah.
or you buy a car and it's like,
Yeah.
or okay, maybe I love being able to get around in my car, but it doesn't, it's one of the, it's one of the things that doesn't really like continually serve you, but it's important to have those things in your life that you work for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and, like,
again, like
part of that
knowing that.
importance is, like, what you do with it too, because a pro card, it could absolutely continually give to you if you work for it. So going back to the hard work thing is, like, a lot of people get the pro card and they just, like, sit there with it, or they get the pro card and they never compete again.
I would
But
like to see the numbers on that.
oh, yeah,
How many people have like just, it's a box to check.
yeah. And if like to each their own, if that's the box you want to check and then you move on with your life, that's fine. But I think that the people that treat it like that moving up to it are generally they're not having as much fun. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, this is a sport that we do for fun. We don't really do it for money, even as a pro. Maybe like 1% of pros actually make money. The $1,000 I made my first pro placing of
What did
which
you
was
do with it? I want to know.
I literally just deposited it into my bank account. I was like,
Next
all
time
right,
you need to
that's
buy
over.
yourself something nice.
Yeah, I didn't buy anything crazy with it. It was $1,000, so that moves pretty quickly,
Yeah,
but
like I
it
paid
felt
in my
good.
bills. You probably honestly paid for the show with that, to be honest.
Exactly. That's pretty much
Like
what you do. Like
your
I had an
hotel, whatever.
Airbnb and probably paid for that. So yeah, but once you get to that point and you have that dopamine crash, like I think resilience is really key for the success and longevity of a competitor. And resilience isn't just like how hard you are or how whatever, it's about how quickly do you return to baseline when you experience a really high high or a really low low.
Mhm.
So, and it's either one. So if you experience this high high, do you like dip really low after that because like, oh my god, it's over, what do I do now, I don't have anything to do or be proud of because that's 2 weeks ago now and everyone forgot? No, you can be proud of it and you can hold it and be grateful for it every day, but you still have to keep going and you have to like show up for yourself and hit the next goal, or maybe maintaining is the goal and that's a win in and of itself.
Yeah, I think having a baseline happiness, like you have to be happy. I always say If you're not happy on the way to the goal, you're not going to be happy when you get it. If you are happy along the way to the goal, then you will be happy when you get the thing that it is that you want.
Yeah.
But we have to, and this goes back to not allowing ourselves to be proud of ourselves along the way,
Mm-hmm.
because we need to divorce ourselves from this mindset of like, when I get this, then I can put IFBB Pro in my hand or whatever. When I finally feel worthy, then I can be happy. When I finally have the physique that matches my goal, then I can start to post selfies. Whatever it is, the things that like hold people back because they just don't feel like enough. It's like there are certain markers, like you say, getting a pro card or going to the Olympia, or like things that we like to use benchmarks for progress.
Yeah, it's
But
part of
they're
SMART goals. It's just like setting a timeline, setting something that's measurable.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not, you're allowed to be proud of yourself and find enjoyment and to like be content where you are. And I think this is something that, again, back to the bikini thing, I am so happy right now. And I'm happy because I'm competitive on a national stage. Is that where I want to be, like eventually just like a top fiver? No. But I'm like enjoy now. Like I don't have to, just because I see myself going somewhere later, I do not want to rob myself of like, most of my friends are IFBB pros. The main reason for that is because I go to a bodybuilding gym and I'm one of the few that's not. And it's not like, oh, I'm not a pro or whatever. I could see myself as like, oh, I'm not there yet or enough yet, or I can't make an impact because I don't have the thing or the title and instead I'm like, this is like such a rewarding chapter in my journey. Like there's so much to appreciate about the fact that I can grow everywhere. My feedback was get bigger everywhere. We want more of you, just not right now. And she was like, and when I got my feedback from Becky, she's like, we just need more of you, like more. But I'm like, so leave and then come back, right? But yeah, just like appreciating where you're at and being proud of yourself, because you're like, I'm doing the absolute best with like where I am. And then growth is just a process. Like if you're trying to save $1 million or whatever, buy a house and you've only saved up 5,000 or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just using the analogies here, but you still have to be like content knowing that you're doing what's required in that stage of the process to get you where you want to go. And like you can be confident in that instead of just, again, fixating on outcomes. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think you're much more likely to crash and burn and get out of the sport and probably hate it if you are only focused on the outcome. I've unfortunately seen that a lot in people that I used to look up to that rose really fast and then crashed and burned as soon as they lost when they didn't expect it. And that's really sad because like it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a sport that you do because you love it, and you love it no matter what, if you win or lose. Obviously, like at a certain point, if you keep losing, you have to do something different. You do have to change, and maybe that change will be uncomfortable. Like I have to spend more time in an off season. I have to have a different coach. I have to go to a different gym or eat more food or whatever that might be uncomfortable, but that growth won't happen without that discomfort.
Mhm.
And too much of the time we think that we don't need to be uncomfortable in order to get the thing we want, because we think like the thing we want is this like shiny beautiful thing, so and we'll be comfortable when we have it, so therefore we
Yes.
don't need to be uncomfortable to get it. But that's the opposite of
And
the
keeping it is harder. I think that is one of those things where it's like a lot of people can get really uncomfortable in the pursuit of the goal, and then once they realize that the level of like whatever it is that you want to achieve, whether it's a healthy, happy marriage or uh, financial security or a great body, the maintenance on it is going to require maybe a little bit less, effort, because hopefully you have systems that keep it.
Mhm.
But you're like, you win one show, guess what? That was yesterday. Like, you still have to go
Yeah,
win the next show. And so,
because
yeah,
everyone
it's
else
like,
is working hard too. Like you're not the only one. It might feel like it sometimes when you feel like, because it is a lonely sport for a lot of people. It's not all of us, but you're the only one competing for you. Everyone else is competing for themselves. So you have to
Yes.
understand that like everyone else is working harder too, or they're learning as well, or getting feedback and applying it as well. And so you can't rest really if you want to continue to climb.
And like the Dodgers don't win every game when they win the World Series. They play 100 games and they, make enough to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think that if we had a little bit more of a sport oriented, so I didn't play sports growing up. So I'm like
Same.
learning how to
I
be
was a theater
coached.
nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's all new to me, but if you think about the way athletes show up to practice, like they're practicing, right? They're going to go and you'll have good practices and you'll have bad practices, but you're going to go and you're going to do it. And I think that we put so much pressure on like say something like posing. Like
Hmm.
just do it. Just like that will compound. Like just put your heels on and like but it's like
But I'm not good at posing.
it's like
I wonder why.
yeah, and if we approach just like everything, like I said, the Dodgers that play 100 games and they win the World Series one year, and then how often do they win the World Series back to back? It's like no, you might have like a decade era where they're good or whatever it is. Like if we looked at ourselves and our competitive careers that way too, like hey, I'm an athlete and I'm playing a sport, like I'm playing a
There's
game.
other players. Yeah.
There's weather, there's other players, there's things,
There's
but
things
this
that
is
can go wrong too that like no one really expects anything to go wrong in a prep, but you could get sick and have to be out of the gym for a week. You could get injured, or you could have something incredibly stressful happen, or you could live in a toxic environment. You could have so many different things that lessen your ability to do your best work, whether it's in your control or outside of your control. And if you ignore that, then you won't really see how detrimental it can be. And sometimes we have to learn the hard way on that stuff. I have definitely had to learn the hard way on it. But when you get to the end of it, and if you come up short from your goal, you can't just look at that as something like, oh, well, it was my coach, or I didn't take the right drugs, or, like one little thing that was the reason that you didn't win. It was probably multiple reasons that you just chose not to see. And that's something that you have to learn, and just like through maturity and expand.
and we are the meaning makers. Like as
Mhm.
human beings, I'm not a total relativist, but we do attach, like we decide what it means to us.
Mhm.
A win, a loss, a placing, a how we looked on stage. And I'm not saying like there's obviously objective ways that we define winning, first place. That's
Oh yeah.
the biggest one. But also you could say putting this package on stage that maybe I overcame all these things and I went through a divorce and I overcame this and
Yeah.
despite all this I still, got on stage and I put something up there that I was proud of and it's a testament, to my resilience and that's okay too. It's just about being honest and not like,
Mhm.
oh, I should have won or, you know, I'm not good or whatever it is, like the internal narrative, the more we can calibrate it with like what is true, like what
Mhm.
is actually true, I think the happier we'll be,
Yeah.
so
And if you're happier, you have less tension in your body, you have less stress, and when you have those things, if your whole body and self and soul is happier and less tense, you're going to respond better. You're going to have better digestion. Your hormones are going to be healthier, your sleep is going to be better, and that affects everything that you do and how you function. And so that's part of the reason why like I stress stuff of like this so much with people, with like clients, friends, is like your happiness is the most important thing. That's why stress management is such something that like I just try to yell into people, because if you're stressed, you're not going to be creative. You're not going to see certain things. You're just going to see the negative. You're not going to see the things that you do have control over, or that you do have, and the things you can be grateful for. If all you're living in is this stressed state, you're not going to be as responsive. You're not going to do as good of work.
yes. And back to being happy, you have to do that first. It
Mhm.
seems so counterintuitive because people see happiness as a product of circumstances. Back to my eating disorder, what I learned is you have to love your body first before you can change it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had to learn to, because I had this ideal that I was hyperfixated on. And once I realized there's nothing that won't make me beautiful. Like there's no amount of weight or, like I can still put on like, cause I gained, I got up to like, this isn't objectively heavy, but for me, I'm like 118 right now. I got up to 170 in my recovery. I'm not saying that I recommend the way I did it. I didn't, you live
did it
and
the way
learn.
that
I
works
was
for you. Yeah.
figuring it out, but I learned to love my body no matter what and to be happy first. I was like, I'm going to be happy first. I don't care. I'm going to accept myself. And then I was able to change my body. But it had to flow
It
from like,
unlocks that. It unlocks your ability.
because I thought I'll be happy. I just need to punish my body into being perfect and then I'll be happy because I have a perfect body. And instead I was like, okay, what is driving this? Like, what is the real desire here? The real desire is to be loved, to be accepted, to have connection, to be seen as valuable by other people. And you're thinking that if you're pretty enough that will happen. And it's like, that's kind of true, because there is an element in our world where when people don't know you, they judge you based off your looks. Like, I think that's important to acknowledge again, like what is true, because we get these twisted beliefs. I'm like, it's twisted because it's not fully false, but it's twisted in a way that doesn't serve you and destroys and ruins your life,
Yeah.
So but I was saying, like, it's not true. Like, if you're hot, people will be nicer to you.
For sure.
And then you just say that out loud, and they're like, okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, once they know you, they don't care. So,
Yeah. If you're
it's
hot
like,
and you're an asshole, like they're not gonna like you anymore.
yeah,
If
I'm
you're
like, your
hot and
mom
you're
doesn't care if you're hot or not.
exactly.
So, this is
Well, and if
really
you
like,
treat people poorly, if like I've noticed this in friends who have seen like, I see them as so beautiful, so strong, so amazing, but like they talk down about themselves a lot, just like that's just a normal thing. And that's something I always fight back on with them, because like you're the only one that thinks that. So you telling people almost as if they should think that about you is kind of sad. And it's kind of fucked up because nobody else thinks it's true. And then when you watch someone talk down about themselves like that, it's more of a pity thing. And like, no, most people don't want to be pitied, right? We want to be seen as strong, beautiful, hot, whatever, smart, everything. But if you're telling people how you think that you should feel about them based on how you feel about yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice.
that is really hard to be. That is one of the things that it's really hard to be friends with somebody who's insecure,
Yeah.
because it creates so much tension, and it seeps into every interaction that you have with them because they constantly need to be validated. And it's hard because it's not malicious. And so many of us have insecurities in so many ways. And we might not be insecure in one way, but we are insecure in another. And that just comes, like, we need to find proof and like find it within ourselves of, like, I guess, confidence, like, it doesn't, I always say, like, I'm not the best of anything, and I don't want to be, but you have to like accept yourself. And yeah, when we're insecure, we just, I guess, it seeps into and like poisons how we act, how we show up for ourselves, and then it changes the way that other people treat us as well. When it's not humility. It's like the opposite of that. Like, I'm like, true humility doesn't do that. It doesn't, because you're still making it about you. And we all have to turn and we have to pivot and we have to talk about to like make you feel better,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it does it stops that, it kind of ruins the connection a little bit, or just like a good time or whatever, when someone is so seeking of that validation, because you shouldn't have to do that. Like, someone should want to give their friend or their significant other or something like a true compliment for whatever they want to give that compliment for, without warranting it, without being asked for it. Because I think that's where like real connection comes from, is like us truly just wanting to say something about our friend or telling them something we've noticed about them, rather than being like, well, I feel like I have to say something, because if I don't say anything, then they're going to feel even worse.
Yeah.
And then I feel like responsible for how poorly they feel about themselves if I don't validate them, right?
And it's really common. Like, it's so common. Like, this is something we struggle with as humans, like all of us. And so it's just, I always try to just give myself grace and give other people grace too. But it's That's one of those things that it's insidious because it has a greater impact than like it's not it's benign. Like the person isn't intending to create, like division or anything like that, but it has
Something just
such a
like a
big
tick,
impact.
something they automatically do.
Yes. And like I always encourage people like work through like have some confidence, like, stand in your own power, like work through your issues because nobody else is gonna, like it's not their job, that's your job. So yeah, taking ownership. Yeah, I think that's the best way to
Yeah,
say that. Yeah.
ownership and just like responsibility for who you are and how you've gotten to this point. Because a lot of the things we're insecure about, we're insecure about them because we're measuring ourselves on them unfairly. If I say like, oh, I'm not that great of a coach, like I don't have any pros yet, or I'm this or that about my coaching. Well, then it kind of devalues all of the great work I've done as a coach. And
Yes.
so, and like, that's not fair to my athletes. Like, I can just scroll on my Instagram and look at like how many amazing athletes I've put on stage and helped through whatever. But if I tell myself or tell others that I'm not that great of a coach because I'm just not at this level yet, then I'm never going to be a better coach than where I'm at right
And
now.
you know what's crazy is you pick who you compare yourself to.
Yeah.
And you always pick somebody who's doing better than you. So I always say like you have to use the right dimension of analysis when you're looking at like when you're making a comparison. Like if you're going to compare yourself to your friend, you can't just pick the one thing that you lack and the one thing that she has and ignore everything else and then be like, aha. Because I'm like, would you take her? You have to take her whole life, everything, or when she's
Mhm.
gonna die. Like, otherwise, it's not fair. And not even just currently, but also sometimes we compare ourselves to like different time people with different timelines, and
Yeah.
like that's also it's very skewed. Like, well, this person is 10 years into their journey. Like, you're not even drawing like a valid comparison. You're saying, oh, I'm 1 year in and I'm looking at Miss Olympia who has been training glutes for 10 years. And I'm like, why, poor me or whatever. Like, it is that you choose to compare. And we obviously, they say comparison is a thief of joy, but I'm like, there is a reason that we do it, right? Because everybody does it. So there's some
Especially in a sport, it's a
biological.
comparison sport. Like, we are compared on stage, so we think we should
Yes.
compare ourselves to others.
Even like in life, I think that like if I always say if it's one person who does something, then it's unique to them. But if it's like ubiquitous, if it's widespread, then it's not really your fault, but it's something that you need to be aware of and monitor. So like obesity is a good example. I'm like, if 100 years ago, if one person was fat or corpulent, you'd be like, well, they just like to eat. Now I'm like, it's so much deeper than that. I don't really
Mhm.
blame people for being obese because I'm like, obviously there's something, because everybody is, there's obviously, I'm not saying it's, there's something dysfunctional in the way that our brains work or the way that our environment works or something
All
that's
of it.
causing this. And I
Yeah.
think the same thing with comparison is like we all compare, right? So there's obviously a survival function for this thing. We want to know where we stack up so that we're going to be accepted or not accepted because like our survival depends on like fitting into a group. And then once you know that, you're like, okay, am I being smart with my comparisons? Because you can use comparison in a smart way. You can say, okay, I really think Rachel is a great coach and she's a little bit ahead of where I am or where I want to be. And so like what are some things that she's doing or like that I could emulate or how far am I progressing along the same timeline? Like you can use comparison to drive you forward or I could be like, hey, I want to beat her, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can, but you have to again like don't be stupid. Like, don't hurt yourself or be kind to your mind. Like, don't hurt yourself for no reason. Don't draw the wrong comparisons because it can also just be self-defeating. And I think this all comes down to like how you use the power of the mind to serve you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, how using it to serve you can open your mind up a lot. So if I, going back to the coaching side of it, or even as a competitor, like I lost 6 pro shows in a row, across 2 seasons. I definitely like I could have stopped there, but like continuing to go just because like, well, I feel like if I do it differently, I might be successful. I just need to like keep working, whatever. Or as a coach, like I look up to this person, and like you said, comparing myself to them might be unfair, especially if I look at like, well, when did they start coaching? How did they start coaching? And learning more about those types of people, the people that you look up to, I think is a really helpful way to just get your mind out of that one track of comparison that you put yourself in. So someone that I've compared myself to, I can look at like, well, how did they really get started? How did they get the clients that they have? Or how did they get to where they're at? And I, you look at it, it's like, it's education. They're mentoring, they're getting mentors, they're, having a certain set of standards, they have these systems. Like there's so many little things that make someone who they are and get them to where they get to. And so you can either just sit there and think and wish and hope, or you can do that for yourself and you can decide, well, what do I need to do to get better? Usually
I'm
if
so glad you
someone,
said.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
That's so true. Because a lot of the time people aren't willing to do the things that like they want. They're comparing their outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you were to actually add up what that person did to get there, they would say no.
Yeah. That sounds way too hard. Like
And then
if
it's like,
you
okay,
have a,
well then stop comparing yourself because you're making yourself miserable for something that you don't truly want.
yeah. Well, it's kind
You
of like
think you
even
want.
someone, maybe not even a competitor or a competitor, even wanting to maintain a certain level of conditioning in their off season. So, okay, you want this, but you're also not willing to take less than one free meal per week, or you're not willing to track your food in the off season. You're not willing to train as hard as you need to train to create the metabolic demand. So, if you're not willing to do that, then you're also not willing to actually stay that lean in the off season. Or
Cognitive dissonance.
yeah, if I
I
look,
want, but I don't want. It's like,
yeah, or with coaching, everyone's a coach and there's so many coaches out there. It's so oversaturated. And I saw this a lot when I started my business of people like asking advice for coaching and getting into coaching and stuff like that. And you kind of see the interest drop off when I start saying like, well, I actually took clients for free for like 3 years and or like $100 a month. And I kept working my corporate job for that whole time. And I didn't even advertise it. And then I
back
started,
to means to an end, right? If you
yeah,
love the process and you love coaching people, you were finding value in coaching people for free because you were gaining experience in something that you loved. But if you see coaching as a vehicle to get you money, then all of a sudden
it's going to be a
it's
lot
not
harder to
worth
get
it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And now
Yeah.
you are where you are because it was aligned with your interest.
Yeah. I also just like, I think I had to see if I liked it enough, honestly, for a while. Cause like, that's easy to do is like get into something for the money or for the hype or because
Hey.
people just say you should, like, oh my gosh, you should coach or, oh, you should
Mhm.
compete. You should compete in Fit Model. You should compete in this. And then
You'd
you
be
get
so
into it.
great.
Yeah.
And
Without
it's
even asking yourself those
seductive.
questions.
It is seductive when people bring something up to you and like, oh, this, that. It's like, oh, well, man, you think I'd be good or you think I should, and
Meanwhile,
it's
what
hard to
do they
check
even
like,
know what
is
the
this
fuck they're
right for
talking about?
me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think so. Do you look at your fit model journey, your fit model era, as something that if you could change it, would you have not done it? Or are you grateful for that time?
I'm so glad I did it. I grew so much from doing Fit Model because mostly mentally, because I had to change my approach to everything. First, it was trusting my coach a lot because we were kind of like trying to figure it out together. Like, what is it? At that point, they were figuring, now they have it a little bit more figured out, but we had to, I mean, everything from the suits to the posing to, it was the Wild West back then. So there was like a lot of collaboration and communication, and it did bring Jamie and I closer, like as a coach and athlete, and it forced me to work on things that I was ignoring, like
Mhm.
my mobility. I couldn't do the Fit Model front pose when we started. I was like, I can't. I was like in tears. I was like, I don't know how to twist my hips, and so I had to practice and drill it. And like I said, I started stretching and focusing on all those things that have served me too with bikini. And I'm glad I did it because that's invaluable experience. Like I'm helping a girl who's competing at Republic of Texas this weekend, and
Yeah.
she's stepping out. I'm so excited for her. And she's so inspired by it. So she's a cancer survivor, stage 4 breast cancer survivor. And she just reached out to me and, told me for her, fit model is inspiring because she's never stepped on stage before, never been an athlete. And she said, I always saw you do bikini and I never thought anything of it. And then I saw you do fit model and I thought maybe this is something for me. She's a mom. She's a cancer survivor. This is her. She has a burning desire to like cross off her bucket list. So this is a bucket list thing for her. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I will help you if you want my help, but just know that this is both of our first time. And she was like, I'm okay with that. And I was like, all right. And she looks beautiful. Like, I'm really excited. I'm like, I did not do that. I cannot take credit for that. She has worked on her own physique, but I wouldn't be able to help her with that if I hadn't gone through it. And I've also connected with just like a lot of girls in the community because it was just such a small pool of people who were competing at the time. So that gave me like a lot of opportunity with, again, just like talking with sponsors and stuff like that. Like, I always say, like, you don't have to be a pro to have an impact.
Yeah.
And I always am trying to think about what my impact is in bodybuilding and just make people's lives better. Like, I love competing so much. I always say I wish everybody could feel what it feels like to pour your heart and soul into a prep and then stand on stage and get moved into the middle, because
It's cool.
I'm like, as an adult, we don't have hobbies really, and so I think for fit model, I think that gives an outlet for a lot of women who maybe they always watch the Victoria's Secret fashion show and like they like, I want to, like have, I think every girl has this like desire to be a bride or a princess or a model, or most girls do, or like an actress. For me, I was like, I want to be an actress, and then do I like acting? No, it was like the glamour, the thought of being famous, which sounds horrible now. I want to be rich, never famous. But if I hadn't done fit model, I don't know that like I would have that level of understanding of it. So I'm glad I did. And I also like showed my coach that, I'm open-minded, and it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me what my why was.
Yeah. If you
And
learn more about yourself, then you're just so much better off.
yes, like
Even if
I
it was
truly,
through a really hard thing.
yeah. So I'm glad I did it. I probably sacrificed like a little bit of an improvement season, just being in prep, but it was worth it. I got to go to San Diego and Salt Lake City and like I met people, so I don't regret it at all. And I think I'm really excited for the division. I think I will probably, so when Lauren won the overall and I was like up there like filming, and I was so happy for her. Like my whole heart was happy for her. And I realized in that moment, I was like, there's not an ounce of me that wants this for myself. And I was like, there's my answer. Cause I was, I could have been thinking, oh, that could have been me.
Yeah.
But I was like, that did not even cross my mind. I was like, I was so happy with my 5th place in bikini, because that's where my heart is, and I feel like there's more room to grow, and that's what I want to do. And I'm like, I don't mind taking the long road. But for her, like, fit model is, she wants to go to the Olympia, she wants to do this, and I am confident that she will. So yeah, I think that the short version of that is like there's something for everybody in bodybuilding. Like the real question is always gonna be, is like, how does this serve me? What is this doing for me? Why am I doing it? And when you talk to like, I'm good friends with Jane, I'm good friends with Lauren, and they love all the things about fit model, the flexibility, the opportunities that come with it. So I think it's just made it more accessible, and I love it. I think I'm like, I hope that I don't regret later on, as it becomes more competitive and I'm like, damn it. But I don't think I will. I think I'm pretty happy where I am.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lovely talk just about happiness and being there for yourself, showing up for yourself and what you want out of life. So, anything you want to shout out or tell people about?
So just back to talking about eating disorders, I always just want to kind of circle back to that and just say one thing, and is you can change no matter how long you've suffered with something or how long you've been fixed in one way of doing things, every single day is an opportunity to choose something different. And you can get help, you can get better, like you can become different. I never thought that would be me. Like I genuinely thought I was going to die because of this. And I will always be so humble. Like when I tell people the details of like what I went through, what I put myself through, right?
Mhm.
Always just be so grateful and just amazed because I would, pray and bargain with God and like I just want to be better and being on the other side of that and having such a healthy, happy relationship with myself. I want to say that bodybuilding can be done very healthily. It can make your relationships and your life better if you are intentional about it and you don't take shortcuts. So find something
Yeah.
that's like worth it and just never stop working on yourself.
Damn. Yeah. That's true. Mic
Yeah.
drop for sure. Thank you so much, Annie. I'll have all of your info down in the show notes so people can follow.
Yes. Thanks, Rachel.